This global AI summit, which is happening in New Delhi, was all about marking India's presence when we are talking about artificial intelligence rulemaking. India has made most of the headlines for the good, but one has depleted all the work done on the positive side. And that one is about the controversy related to imported Robo-Dog, which was labeled of its own by a particular university. But this is the place where we need to know the actual story behind the whole AI landscape which is present in India. This gives us a chance to have a deep dive and recognize efforts and robo-dogs that India has made. For example, just like Param, which has been made by a Bangalore startup, and it is an indigenous robo-dog. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and today we are not just going to talk about the controversy which has been stirred, but we will be looking into the real facts and where does the AI industry and AI innovation for India lie. So when we are talking about this incident that has taken place, it was basically that a robot dog which was imported for presentation was showcased as a university's own innovation. Later, because it was put up online, it was later identified and it was understood that it was not India's, rather Chinese unitary robot. And this has brought a lot of backlash, not just about that particular university, but for India. Because when we are talking about India taking lead in AI, the governance, the rule making, the direction, this has set a negative example. But it is all about the lens through which we are going to see this. This particular incident brings us to a point because we get to see, yes, we are talking about demonstration capability, but when we look at invention capability, we are lacking behind. So this can be taken as a moment of introspection to get a deep dive and understand that what is unfolding in real time when we are making a comparison where India stands and also where China stands in this. Now the reason that we are trying to understand this particular news into a deeper dimension is the fact that when we are talking about AI itself, it is a strategic ability of a nation. Just like nuclear technology, just like space technology. So when we are talking about AI, it is not anymore about software dominance, it is about full stack AI sovereignty. So in this context, when we see this example that has come up in front of us in form of a controversy, another example that I just mentioned, indigenous Param Robo-Dog, which has been launched in this very AI summit. So these are the events which give us the empirical evidence that okay, we need to understand where is the technological depth. We need to understand where is the industrial capacity. We need to understand where is the ecosystem maturity. Because when we are looking from the analytical lens, we have to understand that AI power is not just about one thing. That cannot be talent. It has to be combined with industry capacity. It has to be combined with capital. It has to be combined with hardware. It has to be combined with industry integration as well. That is why the conversation that we are starting becomes of greater essence, and that is why we are reading into this matter from a totally different lens. Now when we have established that why are we speaking about why it matters so much, one thing I highlighted was the fact that we have a different demonstration capacity and different invention capacity. But there are other pointers as well, such as the fact that we have dependence on robotics hardware. This has been revealed through this incident. Another factor that comes that we have limited technical verification mechanisms, because when we are talking about demonstration capability as well, even though it was an imported dog, even though it was an imported robo-dog, we have to understand this was not just amplified by that university, but it was rather amplified by government platforms as well. So it is not just about invention, demonstration capability and associated mechanisms are also at stake. And furthermore, we have to understand that such moves bring damage to the credibility that we are trying to build. If we want to be a global voice, we cannot start with such a controversy. And when we are looking at this particular mistake, we would label it as mistake. This is not something that is isolated. You have to understand that it clearly reflects that we have systemic problems, we have issues that need to be addressed, be it limited robotic manufacturing, be it the deep tech commercialization that is lacking in our country, or be it the institutional branding pressure that India and the AI innovation ecosystem is feeling as of now. Now, in this very context, I would like to bring a different dimension here related to the fact that in this context, it is very important to understand that it is not just about systemic weaknesses. We do have certain wins as well, which I mentioned as an example when I was talking about Param Robo-Dog. Now, this has been brought up by startup General Autonomy in Bengaluru, and it has technical features such as autonomous navigation, if we talk about obstacle detection, stair climbing capacity, self-recovery after fall, and also design, and also the fact that it has been designed and built by Indian engineers. You would not have heard about this news as much that you would have heard about the controversy. But at the same time, if you draw parallels and comparison in terms of feature, we just do not need to compare the robo-dogs, but we need to do the comparison at a broader level to understand that what exactly is the problem in the AI systems that we are talking about. When we are talking about this example for India, this also highlights a problem, because this is an isolated event. Because when I was talking about the controversy, I mentioned that this is not an isolated mistake. There are multiple such other things, but when I am talking about Param Robo-Dog, yes, this is an isolated. And this draws the difference, the first difference between the AI systems and the AI innovation ecosystems that exist between both of the countries. And this is where we also need to look into the fact that when we are talking about India, India has talent-driven ecosystem as of now, because if you look at the characteristics, this prototype was completed in merely 7 months. It has already an iterative improvement model, and it was totally built domestically. It's not that assembling was done here, it has been designed, manufactured and created in India. So this does give a proof of that we have indigenous robotic capability. It does tell us that there is startup-led innovation present, and it also shows that we have a strong design talent base. As I indicated, that we are a talent-driven AI ecosystem as of now. But as I also mentioned, this success is isolated. We are not seeing that present across the ecosystem. So this brings us to the comparison that once we know that if we are talking about just the Robo-Dog, it is not something that we need to worry. It is not something that India has not created. But we cannot stop our comparison just at the Robo-Dogs, because what the Robo-Dogs are symbolizing are the AI-driven economies, AI-driven nations, AI-driven ecosystems altogether. So in this context, we will be moving ahead and looking into that what AI ecosystems look across both of these countries. So yes, there is a far-fetched difference, but we will be trying to understand where does this difference germinate from. If we are looking at dimensions such as manufacturing base, as of now China has a massive manufacturing base, India has a very limited manufacturing base, but we are focusing on a great push. A very good example here is AI Data City Vizag. Proposal, $175 billion worth investment would be made. Furthermore, when we are talking about manufacturing base, in that if you look about robotics production, China has already moved to industrial scale. But as of now, when we are talking about India, we are at the prototype level. Example, Param Robo-Dog. When we are talking about hardware independence, that means where does the hardware come from? Are we able to manufacture on its own? So for China, yes, they do have high amount of hardware independence, but for India, it is limited because we are dependent on imports as of now for hardware. Then another important component, artificial intelligence chips, on which the whole AI ecosystem is based. Same scenario as we saw for hardware dependence is with AI chips, that China has already focused on domestic push with facilitation of semiconductors, but at the same time India as of now remains import dependent. And because of these factors, the startup scale in China is way larger as compared to India, because in India it is at a nascent stage, it is growing, yes, but this is the only start for India. Later we might be seeing all these features for India as well. And because of all the above given features, if you look at the commercialization level, because industrial base is high for China, startup scale is large, the commercialization is way faster. That means the commercialization, the availability of robo-dogs in the market setup is way faster, is more enabled in China as compared to India. So all in all, that we get to see that for China, what we have a whole system which is present. So the innovation is present across the system. But when we are looking for India, we get to see the numbers that, or the features that we are talking about, they are only talent related as of now. Again, going for the example of Param Robo-Dog, because that was a design talent which has shown as a prototype. But when we talk about the system level innovation, that has not happened. So as of now, whatever innovation we are seeing, that is talent driven, and that is why the difference in front of us, what we are talking about. Now when we have understood, done a broader comparison, that is when we will be able to also talk about where does India stand as of now. So if you are looking at the trajectory, you have to understand India is, yes, in a transitional phase. Why? Because if you look at the stage 1, it is the time when you are looking for talent. You don't even know where the talent exists, and in this quest, India was the place where talent was housed. So India emerged in this stage as a talent exporter, because we did not know what to do of the talent, because other countries had the mechanism, had the systems in place. So Indian engineers have been powering the global AI force. But in the second stage, where we can say that we are situated as of now, where we are startup innovators. We do have strong founders present in India. They have talent, they want to create things, but we have limited infrastructure as of now. So this is the current stage where you can place us in, because the next stage that would look like would be of full stack AI power, which will have the semiconductor ecosystem, which will have the robotics manufacturing, patient capital, enough capital, and deep research and development policies as well, which will be facilitated with university industry integration. So when I'm talking about these features, they do not resonate with India, because India is presently at stage 2. We are aiming to go towards stage 3, and for that we need to correct and change all these adjectives to the ones that we are seeing in China. And that is when we will be able to arrive at stage 3. So as of now, what is the critical gap? All of these things missing in India's infrastructure, in India's strategy, is the critical gap that we are talking about. As of now, India, yes, it excels in intelligence. But when we are talking about industrial level intelligence capacity, we do not have that. And that is a good point to recognize with, because when you will recognize the challenges, that is when you will be able to solve them. Now, going back to the starting point where we started with 2 incidents, 2 events during this AI summit. One was the controversy, one was the Param Robo-Dog. You have to understand that both of them highlight and direct us in a very important direction. When we are talking about the controversy, it tells us we do have systemic weakness, but when we are talking about Param Robo-Dog, it shows that at the same time we do have the capability and we have the potential to correct this systemic weakness. So India's challenge is definitely not invention. We are inventing. Param Robo-Dog is a very good example here. But the problem is, how do we scale this? How do we make it at the industry level, not at just the talent or the startup level? And that is why we need to bring certain policy priorities immediately, such as National Robotics Mission, ensuring public procurement, support for startups more heavily as of now, especially which are oriented towards AI. We have to give a domestic push to component manufacturing so that we are not import dependent. And when we are talking about AI hardware, we need to bring policy incentives around them. Furthermore, when we are talking about integration of industry and academia and also research and development policy, that commercialization research needs to be done and reforms need to be brought around that. If this is not ensured, then the terms that we were talking about, the difference between India and China, this will become further massive and more difficult to cover, because as I said, this is a strategic capability just like nuclear technology. So if you do not have it, you leave yourself exposed, you leave yourself weak in the chaotic global landscape where is nobody your friend and nobody is your enemy. The only thing that they have close to themselves is their permanent interests. So in this context, it is very important for India to ensure that these policy priorities are brought in and AI is able to deliver and become our strategic capability as well. On this note, I'll be leaving you here with a practice question. You can put down your answers in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.